Welcome. This webcast will give an overview of the reading list software used by academics to communicate their teaching and learning needs to the library and then give that information to the student via Blackboard. So you can see here that I am about to log into Blackboard. This is a staging instance of Blackboard, but you would be logging into your own Blackboard. And you will notice my units here, just like you have your units there. And I'm going to use this test instance today for our demonstration. So you'll note that the reading list link is already embedded into your Blackboard instance, and a critical piece of information is to be able to identify your Blackboard unique identifier, which can be found here under the control panel and in files. So this is the unique identifier for this Blackboard instance, which is important for connecting this Blackboard instance to your reading list. The reading list link, when we click on it, will launch the software. It is important to note that the reading list links in Blackboard aren't very special. They just take you into the software. But the students, when they want to access reading lists, must come in through this official link at least once to create the on-the-fly association with the reading list. And so let's launch. Okay, so what we can see here is what's called the reading list wizard. So the wizard wants to help you create a reading list. You will get this screen every time you want to make a reading list where the Blackboard instance that you're coming from doesn't have a reading list attached to it. And you can see that we've given two options. One is that we can either create the reading list from scratch, or we can leave this page and go around the wizard to actually explore the application. Obviously, if you've got haven't made a reading list before, you would want to create it, but if you have old reading lists that you want to reuse, you would leave this page and explore the application to find those other lists. For today's example, we're going to create a reading list from scratch. And to do that, I'm clicking on the Create button here. And you'll see the first thing that it wants to do is give this reading list a title. So the reading list name that it's going to suggest is the same as the name of the Blackboard instance that we've just come from. But you can change this if you like. If you wanted to make a history of man reading list that you were going to use for lots of different cohorts, you might, for example, want to take out anything that links it to a particular time frame. And then we click Create. And then the next thing we're going to be asked to do is to create a template or select a template. So we have two templates. One is blank, which just means there are no sections created inside this template, and you'll be able to freeform your reading list. This one's based on the academic calendar, so it has already broken down into sections by teaching week for you. And that can be very useful if you've decided to go with a week-by-week layout of your reading list. As you can imagine, week by week and topic by topic is very popular, and the other is to create a very small reading list that doesn't actually have a lot of resources on it. So the program calendar can be very useful to save you from having to make all those weeks. Otherwise, you can make your own. And so we're going to go with blank today, just so we can have a look at some of the functionality there. So I'm clicking on the blank template, and you'll see the first thing it wants to do is it wants me to add a new section. So your reading list must have one section. It can have as many sections as you like, but it must have one section. So let's make our section. I'm going to click on the new section button, and I'm going to give it some information. So we will call this one week 1. And you could also, if you want, set start dates. So if you wanted to give students a better idea about which weeks, where the week started and so on, you could do that. And then the end date as well. Now the dates here are just for students. That's just directing the students. However, if you actually want to hide the section, you would need to enter a start date, which will make this tick box available, so that if you ticked it, it would actually then hide and or show the sections between the dates that you've suggested. If I create that, you can see then that the section is only visible during these dates. If you've made anything about the section that you've decided that you don't like and you want to change it, this citation menu, reading list menu options here will give you the option to edit the section again. So we could remove the section visible tick. We could also decide that we're actually not going to go with week 1, we're going to go with topic 1. And we'll click save again. If you make lots of reading lists, they drag around so that you can reshape them. So you don't need to feel like everything needs to be in the right order straight away, because you would be able to restructure it later on down the track. Some other really important housekeeping activities. One is to set your collaborators. So you should add to your reading list everybody who, every teaching staff member who should be able to see this reading list, and that might include your sessional staff, your teaching support officer, possibly your faculty librarian, and just anyone who might feel like they need to make a reading list if they weren't aware that this one existed. So to do that, we just click on the Manage Collaborators link, and we add the name of the person we want to add down here, and we just need to actually select the right staff member, so you can, and we send the invitation so we can see that the new staff member is there. If we want to remove our collaborators, we do the same but in reverse. We click the link, and any collaborator that is there with a cross, we can simply remove them. These people here who don't have a cross were actually added at the course owner level by the automated system, and you can't remove them. If you need to remove someone from this level, you need to email reserve@curtin.edu.au and ask library staff to make that change for you. But we'll just remove this staff member and click close. So any issues related to ownership, you can email the library at that address, reserve@curtin.edu.au, for support. Okay, so the next thing that's really useful, of course, is to add items. And so to add items to the system, we're going to click on the blue plus sign, which will change this pane to give us options. So we've got 3 options here, 3 different ways of adding resources. One is to use search, which is searching the library catalogue. One is to create your own citations, and one is to use My Collection, which is a private basket for you where you can store resources that you use a lot and want to be able to find easily, or resources that you have found that are great but you don't actually have a reading list for. And they can all be reused, and we'll have a look at that. The fourth one is actually adding material from the web, and we'll cover that in just a minute. So library search, obviously you're going to start with library search to add everything that the library actually owns. So all our ebooks and books and journals and journal articles, our videos, anything that you can find that you know that the library owns. And this toolbar, this box is just a simple search, so you should keep it simple as you understand library search to be. Maybe only 4 major keywords, avoiding any funny spelling and things like that that might throw off your search. I like to search for cats. So you can see here that we have got our results. The first thing that we can do is we can actually filter. So if you know that you actually just want an article, you could use the filters to just limit those searches. Otherwise we can scroll through looking for what we're looking for. You can see here a clue to the format that the item's available in, P being for physical and E being for electronic. So you probably want to just make sure that you're pulling in the right format. And to pull in the format, you've got a couple of options. You can first you click on it to select it, and then you could add it to the list, and you could also choose the right section for it to go in. You could put it in your bag. If you had lots of sections and you needed to put this towards the bottom, you might find using the bag more convenient. Or you can simply drag, add, that sometimes there are hidden records. So we can see here we've got one additional version available, and so we should always be clicking on that link and looking inside there as well, because then you can see the additional formats, and quite often it's the electronic version that's been hidden away. So to make sure that you're finding your e-resources, you really want to be clicking on there and also accessing your editions. So I'll just show you how to use the bag here. So we click on the item again and we select add to bag, and we're going to bag it, and then you can see that the bag has opened up here, and if I click on the bag to open it, it says if I point, it will move the item to this location. So I could move and or copy this over, and I can choose where that can go. So I'm going to move it, and there we go. So that's adding from library search. To create you only use for 2 reasons. One is to upload files that you are an owner of. So if it was made for Curtin, if it was made for your teaching and learning, if you made it yourself, you could upload the file. You can also use a citation to make citations when you can't upload a file or you can't add the record in any other way. And the other one is to be able to link to an ebook, which we all know is very popular. If you've got a book, you might want to actually direct the students to the chapter rather than the book. So in this instance, I'm going to open by clicking on the View Online link. And you can see that the chapters are here. So I'm just going to pick a chapter. So a lot of the library ebooks come from the ProQuest eBook Central database, and for this example we use the hyperlink or the share link to find the hyperlink for the chapter, and we copy it and we click done. In other books you might find the hyperlink is in a different place, or you might actually need to copy the address bar. If it doesn't look apparent that you can make the link in any way, then you should accept that the publisher doesn't want you deep linking into their ebook. So we go up to create. So to link to an ebook, first thing I need to do is I need to change the type to book chapter so that it creates a form that allows me to give it book chapter information. So the title, you might remember, was Explaining Health, so I can add that in. I could add the author. I'm going to paste my hyperlink into here, and I can also add the book information and the author information and any other information that the form allows me to. And I'm just going to add it to the section again, clicking the add button. And you can see that here's our chapter. It's clearly denoted as a book chapter, and when I click on the View Online link, it will actually open to the chapter. If you want to upload a file, you need to give it a title, and you need to give it a type, and you would click on this blue box for where it suggests that you can drag the file to upload it, and it will navigate you to your local drive, and then you can select your uploaded file. Now you're going to get this declaration. It says, I confirm this material cannot be added via Cited or Library Search. All permissions to use this material are attached to the document, or if they could not be attached, I have emailed them to reserve@curtin.edu.au. Now firstly, you should always leave this declaration on, whether it's true or not. This will mean that the file will be immediately available to your students while library staff do the copyright checking on the resource that you've added. So basically it means, first of all, we really do want you to add your resources via Library Search and Cite It if you can at all. We really only allow you to upload resources that you are not the copyright holder for if you are trying to transfer it into the library's centralised copyright database. Second of all, if you are uploading third-party materials, you probably should have had a permission for that, and if you can, you need to get it to the library. You need to either email it to us so we can attach it to the document, or you need to attach it to the document. If you don't have the permission, that's also fine. The library does that work for you. We'll go get the permission and make everything compliant. But you kind of need to understand that that work needs to be done. So we're going to leave that ticked on. And if we click Add, you can see that the resources come in with the download button. It's automatically complete, and the student will be able to access that. Now, if the library does need to make another record within the database, this record will ultimately get deleted, and you'll be given another one that'll have a View Online link that will take the student off to where the resource has been moved. So that's pretty much create. If you just need to create a citation, sometimes the Cite It button doesn't work. You just need to know that your mandatory fields are title, type and source is always for URL. You don't want to put any text in here. So the third way to add resources is via adding things from the web, and to do that you need to have this Cite It button that I've been referring to. So to add the Cite It button, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that your address bar toolbar is open, and then you need to go into the user menu here, click on the Leganto Cite It menu option, and then take this green button and drag it into the toolbar. And you can see that it's placed itself and it looks like that. When I have that in my browser, and I can have it on all of my laptop and PC devices, and I'm going to the web or on the web, I would be looking at a website or a white paper or a landing page, and I could then click the Cited button and this yellow form will populate. And again, you can see it's a form, so I can edit the form to make everything more understandable and engaging for the student. So I guess this is a website, and I can add in all this information if I want to. And then again, I have two options. One is that I can add it to the list. So all of the lists that I'm collaborating in will appear here, and I could choose my list, and I could also choose my section. So I don't think that's the list we're currently working on. Just choose History of Man, Topic 2. So if I was to click Add and Close here, this would put this citation at the bottom of the section of that reading list. But in this instance, just to demonstrate, I'm just going to pop it into my collection. So I've selected collection and I'm adding and closing that, and you can see that that was successful. I'm returning back to my reading list, giving it a little refresh, and it is in my collection. So again, to access, so my collection is over here. This is my entire collection. So all the things that I have found that I wanted to keep track of that didn't have places in reading lists, I have put into here. This is private, it's just for me. I can add tags to it to create my own filing system. I can search it. I can suggest this item to other reading lists, so I could pick another reading list and send it to them as a suggestion, and then they would be able to add it to their reading list. Or of course I can delete things from my collection. But when I'm actually in my reading list, and these are all of my reading lists under my lists. Let's turn this filter off here. If I go back into the plus sign, my collection, we can see that there it is at the top. And again, I could drag this in to where I wanted it to go, or I've got the same add to list or add to bag options that we had before. And you can see that the resource then is complete. It's if we click on the link, this would be the student's experience, and they get the website or the web page or the document that you've directed them to. So with Cite It, you can add anything that's publicly available on the web, including your YouTube videos, your Vimeo data sets, anything, as long as it's not behind a firewall. The Copyright Officer is approved. So, for example, you would be looking at your YouTube video, clicking Cite It, and again it's pre-populating the data that you can clean that up if you like. And this time I am going to add it to the list. In topic 1, add and close. And you can see it's here at the bottom with the view online link. It's all ready to go. And they're the 4 different ways that you can add things to the library, to your reading list. So from the search, create my collection tabs, or using your Cite It button. Once you've got your basic list and you've located all of your resources, you may wish to enhance them for students. So whenever you click on a reading list, on a citation, sorry, it's going to open the page and give you some options. First of all, you can re-edit that form again. So if you did pull in information that wasn't useful, you could change that. People quite often do this just to try and get nice referencing from students. If it's not actually clear, you can make it clearer by editing the form. Then the next one, if it's a physical item, you're going to see the availability. So you will be able to see how many items the library owns, whether they're on loan, and how they're being used. And if it's electronic, you'll find out which platform it comes from, and you'll be able to get some licensing information about the ebooks that you've chosen. Then you can set due dates. So this is just for the students. So it will, you can just say, well, this needs to be read by the 18th. This is a really fast way for you to be able to do that. And then when the student is looking at their reading lists, and you've got a few dates in there, you'll see that this upcoming due date panel will start to show. It'll give the students some direction about what should be read first and so on. That can also be removed by just going back in again and clearing it. Then you've got public notes, which are to the student. So there are three types of public notes that are popular. One is something like read chapter 1. Or the reason why we're reading this is because the author had a really great point. Or if you have a bad, not a bad, but if you have a license that's a bit restrictive, you might want to say, please close this book when you're finished with it so that other students can use it. And the public notes are here. So the student can see them there as well. Then you've got private notes, which are private notes to yourself. And then you can also restrict the visibility of the reading lists, the citation. So this would, setting the start and end dates here would hide the citation completely until the dates. Setting the display materials would show the citation but prevent access to the resource until a specific date. You'll also be able to tell how many other people are using this resource in their reading list, and it will show down here. Other options, you've got students can have discussion inside the reading list. Quite often it's not very popular, but mostly people just will say this resource seems to be broken, or I love this resource, are about the two types of feedback we get in there. If you want, and they've got the like functionality as well. If you want to turn off student discussion inside the reading list so that it all happens in Blackboard, if you go back to your reading list and go into this reading list options up here in this left-hand corner, you can configure the list discussion to hide the student discussion thread. So you can now see that that's gone, and that's an option. And that's some of the ways that you can easily start to give students information about how they should be using these resources without writing tons of stuff in other places like Unit Outline or Blackboard. The other option that you've got is to use this add tags to item. So I've just clicked on that link and it's given me this white box, and when I click in the white box we'll get a drop down of all of the tags that we have. So the ones with the student hats can be seen by the students, and we basically have compulsory and non-compulsory and all the essential ways you reading, viewing and listening, or all the recommended ones. And this is just a really nice fast way to give students some feedback about how essential the reading is to the topic or the week, without you writing lots of stuff. You can just use the tag. The other tags relate to instructors accessing library services. So the library reading list service offers three value-added services for academics. One is to digitise resources from print books. The second one is to actually buy books for the library, and the other is to move books to the high demand collections at the two different campuses. So we'll talk through that now. If you want to digitise a chapter out of a print book, you need to remember that the copyright rules are in play, and there's a link here to the library's copyright website down here. But essentially, for a commercially available resource, you can use one chapter or 10% of a resource, whichever is greater, but that's limits are determined across the whole university. But to do that, essentially you would go back into your library search and find the print book, because the library probably has the print book. Then we're going to go back into the Add Tags link, so I'll just close that. So I'm just clicking, actually I'll just delete it. So I'm going back into the Add Tags to Items link, clicking in the white box, and I'm choosing Digitize, and I'm clicking Save. Then I'm clicking on the citation to open it, and I'm going to add the information about what I want digitized here under Citation Specific Discussion, where it says add digitized notes or comments. So I don't have to say much, I can just say chapter 1 or pages 27 to 33, whatever it might be, and just clicking the comment button. And that information is automatically copied straight through to library staff. If I want to purchase a book, probably what I'll be doing is I'll be on the publisher website, or anywhere, Amazon or Book Depository, or just, wherever there's information about the book at quite a specific level. So we'll just look for a book. So say it's this one. I'm going to go in as deep as I can go, so that when the staff member's looking at it, they can see all of the information like the ISBN and so on. And I'm clicking Cite It, and it's just going to make some metadata for us. So I'm going to add that to the reading list. And go back to the reading list. So what that has done is made some metadata for us to say there is a book. And so to help staff find that, we click Add Tags to Items, and we choose the purchase tag and save. And that's all we need to do. When the staff place the order, this record will be replaced with an official library record, and eventually the resource will be behind that and students will be able to access it. Now the library is e-preferred, so we will buy the electronic book if it's available to the library for purchase. If it comes in as a print resource, unfortunately that does mean that the vendor has chosen to not sell that to the library and it's not available to us electronically. In which case you may then wish to go back and make additional requests for some of that book to be digitised. And the last one is just to move physical items down to our high demand collection. So here at Robertson we have a collection where items are only eligible to be borrowed for 2 hours at a time. And if you want a book down there, you need to go back into your tags and choose Move to High Demand Collection Bentley. Whoops. And save. And then staff will move it. So we only move books that have the Move to High Demand tags on them, because we don't have room to put every single book down there in that collection, and that book must always be connected to a current reading list, otherwise it might get removed. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. We've got a list and we've done all sorts of things to make it easier for students to use and put them in the right collections and made our electronic copies and purchase stuff. So now we basically need to send it to the library. So we talked about these completed tags before. Complete means that the resource, that the citation has come in and it's complete and available to students. Now that is obviously not always true, like with this purchase book. But essentially what you're looking for is for all your citations to be marked complete. If something comes into the system with a being prepared status on it, it means that you're working on the resource but you're not ready for the library to work on the resource. And so to change any being prepared statuses to sent to be accessed by the library, you can just click this send to list button here. If in this instance it'll send the list, but there isn't any work to be done because in actual fact it's all complete except for us purchasing this book and digitizing and moving this resource. Then we need to publish the list. So students can't see this list while it remains in draft format, and you can see the orange draft here. When I'm ready to publish this to the student, I click on the reading list options menu here and I click publish. So I get 3 publishing options. I can either publish it to just the students who are in this course, I can publish it to all Curtin staff and students, or I could publish it to anyone. So no guesses. Popular, very popular is the course students, especially for academics who are getting used to how reading lists work and what it means. The all students at institution option has some popularity for people who are only using library resources anyway, where the student could discover them in the library catalogue, so that does get some use. The publish to anyone is obviously not very popular, but there are reasons why you may want to use that, and if there is a reason, the library will actually tell you that you must publish to anyone. Anyway, in theory, you choose your own publishing level and then you click confirm, and you'll notice that the reading list status is now changed to published, and that is now accessible to students. So it's one of the things that people forget to do, but it's also easily remedied if you realise that the students are trying to access the reading list but you haven't published it. The other one that we talked about earlier was association. So this is your association line, and for the student to be able to get to the reading list, the Blackboard instance and the reading list need to be connected. So when we looked at that unique Blackboard identifier earlier, we need that number and this number to be the same, so that we know that the student coming from there will get this reading list. So that when you're coming in through the wizard, obviously that association is going to be made for you and there's no worry about that being correct. However, if you want to add additional reading lists to the add additional courses to the reading list, you need to do that manually yourself, and you can do it in 2 ways. First of all, if you're in My Lists, you will see, just turn this filter off, you'll see that I actually have 38 reading lists, so I can work with all of my reading lists in one place. I don't need to come in and out of Blackboard all the time to get to the different lists. And I can use the menu options here to do some of these things like publish and also manage my course association. So to manage my course association, I just type in this box here the reading lists, the courses that I want this reading list to be accessible to. So I might choose this one, and I might choose this one. So you can see how I can link multiple courses to the one reading list. And then associate and close. When we're in our reading list, it's now actually linked to multiple courses, and by hovering over it I can easily see that I have got the reading list going to all of the right student cohorts. And if I want to undo the associations, I can just go back into the menu option, manage course associations, and by crossing the links I can remove the associations as well. So you do that when you want the reading lists to be unassociated. If you want to delete a reading list, you can also do that. You could be in My Lists again, just turning that filter off, and in that menu option I've also got delete. If I delete my reading list, it's gone, of course, and this is perfectly valid if the reading list is no longer required by you or anyone. So we click OK. However, if we realise we've made a mistake, we could be in My Lists and go into this sort option here, My Lists, and click on Recently Deleted, and I could restore the reading list. Now that isn't there forever, but it's certainly there hopefully long enough for you to realise that you've deleted something by mistake and get it back. Something else that you might like about your reading lists options is the ability to export your reading list to Word, for example, in the referencing style that you use. Now, it's very difficult for computers to do referencing, but this should give you some way of pulling down some of the information. I'll just pull it over here. So this is the Word document that the system produced that may save you from having to retype all of this information from scratch if you want to create backups of what you put in your reading list. So that's something that you might not have thought that a reading list could do before. Don't make permalinks or LTI links at this stage. You do need library advice if you want to do that, and at the moment the technology is a little bit underdeveloped, and so we would encourage you to not do that. If you want to view the list to see how a student will look at it, you cannot test it from Blackboard, but you can see inside the system what it will look like. So you can see that it's stripped off all the instructor functionality. Students also get a My Lists, so they can see all their lists together. They get their own private collection. They also have the ability to search for lists. They don't have access to reports. I don't know why they can see that. But this is what they'll see, their upcoming due dates. If they click on a resource, they'll have access to where the item is and your public notes and so on. And you can turn that off by clicking on the Close Student View Mode cross down here. You'll also find in your notifications that you'll start getting some feedback about things that are happening on your lists. And eventually, once you've created enough data, maybe about 6 months worth of data on your reading list, you'll be able to start getting some reports, on-the-fly reports about your reading lists. Now, I don't think I'll get, oh yeah, not too bad. So you can see what your reading lists are doing, you can see what it does over time. You obviously can't get any information about actual students because that's not compliant with Curtin's, the way Curtin deals with its student data. And if I click sort of here on these titles, I can actually go into the reading lists and get some more specific levels about how each citation functioned. And the idea obviously is that it starts to inform you about whether whether students can cope with everything that's on the reading list, when they read it, when they're likely to be engaging with their reading lists. This is not information that's been available to academics in our previous systems, so you may find that it is very useful. So it's actually over here, so you can start to see lots of information about the courses and the citations. And so on. By clicking on that, we get more information about each section and so on. Okay, so that's a brief overview of reading lists. Certainly with that information, I'm hopeful that you would be able to create a basic reading list and make it, use some of the library services and make the reading list available to the students so that you're leveraging your copyright reporting and helping students discover the library resources as well. So thank you very much.